Welcome back, I'm Exa, and today we're going to do another fun Christine Quinn inspired outfit makeover.
So as you can see, Christine wore this on some Instagram posts, and I thought it was the freaking coolest blazer ever. I've actually seen a few people wearing a blazer like this throughout Instagram over the last year or so, and I really loved it, and I have yet to find where it's from, but I probably couldn't afford it anyway. So I figured enough is enough. It's finally time for me to make one.
We're going to be using this denim blazer,
And I'm going to be cannibalizing this white one to go with it. Now obviously, as you can tell, this one is a little bit too small for me, but that's what happens when you buy cheap things off Amazon from China, and their size charts are very, very incorrect. Now obviously I did pick this one of this style because it has the same buttons on the sleeves as the kind of example blazer that I'm going off of. It's also actually like a nicer, thicker material. It's going to pair well with the denim. You don't want to go with like a really thin, cottony kind of blazer for the arms and the bottom, because then when you sew them together, first off, the tension, sewing it's going to make it a little funky and more difficult to sew, and also it might sit on you weird and just kind of feel odd when you're wearing it just from the change in textures.
So I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to do this, but we're going to figure it out. So let's get started.
So materials for this project is really easy. All I have is 2 blazers and a sewing machine.
Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is cut apart the pieces and kind of figure out how I want this to lay together. So in the example one, this part of the collar is part of this denim blazer, and then the top part around the neck is part of the white blazer. Also, for the white blazer, we want the sleeves and the shoulders to be coming from this blazer, so we're probably going to cut it just kind of straight across here, and then we're going to do the same thing on this one, but keeping the lapels, and then kind of stitch this part together onto this one.
So to get started with cutting the denim blazer, first I just followed the line up of the edge of the lapel all the way up, and then like just cut off the top of the neckline. And then we're just going to cut kind of in this shape to go around to the underneath the armpits and then straight across. I would recommend getting some really good scissors for this. Mine are kind of dull. I definitely need some new fabric scissors, and that would have made this so much easier because I really struggled on this whole cutting denim thing. And when you're done, it should look something kind of like this. So now I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom edge and just kind of cut off the bottom couple inches of the denim blazer. Now because of where the pockets are placed on this, I'm actually just going to cut around the pockets. Yeah, and we're just going to sew those onto the white blazer, so that part is a little different depending on what actual jackets you are going to be using for this project. Yeah, so just, cutting around the pockets and then going straight across the whole back in that same distance. So as you can see, now I've just cut off the whole bottom piece and left the pockets kind of sticking out. Alright, so I just kind of laid them together so I can see what it's going to look like, and hopefully it will turn out something kind of like this.
Alright, so I decided that I really like the double-breasted closure of this. So for ours, instead of using this button, I'm going to take those buttons and put them on here, and kind of have this do the overlap thing so we can do the buttons like that. But that makes this one too small. So what we're going to do is cut the middle of the back, take a section of arm, and sew it in. So now that I have this piece, we're just going to sew these guys together on the seams right here. Alright, so I put the right sides together for this one side, and I'm going to do a zigzag stitch all the way down.
Alright, so here it is with our new middle section on the back.
So you know how I told you that it didn't matter that this blazer was a little small for me? Well, here's why. this new blazer's edges lines up with the outside edge of the old blazer. So we're going to just stitch the edges, the tops and the bottoms together, and then cut out some of this middle section so it's not so bulky. So the first stitch I'm going to do is to stitch across the back on the top side. So as I'm doing this, I'm periodically checking that it is lined up still on the other side, because we obviously want it to be centered and even across the back, because otherwise when you get to the front sides, then your lapels are not going to line up correctly and it might look a little weird. So I would definitely recommend to either pin it or just be really careful and take your time with making sure that it doesn't slip out of place. But if you have pins, please use them, because they are way easier. Alright, so now that the back is stitched on, it looks something like this. I am going to, however, kind of even up this top edge where it's a little jaggedy, so I'm just going to go in with my scissors and carefully trim the extra denim pieces so it looks a little more even and intentional. And be really careful with this that you don't accidentally cut a hole in the white part of the blazer sticking out of it. Alright, so once I did the back, I'm going to go back in and stitch around the bottom of the armhole across here, and then just continue down the front. So again, I'm just being really careful and taking my time and making sure that it's staying straight between the two pieces. Go get some pins. I should have got some pins, but I didn't. So, you know, here's where we are. But anyway, I just went straight across underneath the edge of that armpit over to the point on the edge where the lapel folds over, because we're going to do that part next. Alright, so we got that stitched all the way over here. Now here's the weird part. So this guy folds over right here, is like the little point. So we're going to take this inside edge, because it's kind of like a pocket. So the point on there, and so stitching on this lapel is actually kind of difficult. So I went over to the edge here on the inside, and then you can see I stitched off of covering both sides, the inside edge from the denim blazer over both sides, so you can see like that, just so that way that would stay tucked in. And then I went from the inside just on the liner, inside the liner of the white blazer, just the liner of that with just the inside edge of this denim blazer, and then I stitched that down on that side. So that way when it's folded over, you still have a nice edge. I hope that makes sense. That was kind of difficult to figure out, but so here's the top with both lapels done. The edge of that one, the edge of that one. Alright, so I haven't sewn the buttons on yet. I just put them here so you can kind of see where they're going to go. So this is the overlapped edge here, and I'm going to use the original buttonhole for that one because it's already nice and neat. And you can see the lapels are both attached, and it's sewn all the way around the top. So now what we need to do is the bottom edge. And obviously, since we did extend the midsection of this blazer to make it bigger, and we discussed how this one was already too small on the edges with it overlapped, so it wouldn't fit. So obviously these are not lining up, meeting in the middle with these lines anymore. But we have a solution. So now we basically just need to add a middle section to this one. Also, since we have a lot of extra material, so I'm going to cut the inside just past this seam here, so that way it's just going to be the denim, like the denim midsection, and then we can cannibalize a piece of that midsection and just sew it into the back on the bottom here. So then when we fold this over, we can have these guys lining up nicely like that. And there is the cut together blazer. Alright, so when we line up the edges, we have the gap in the middle, which conveniently lines up with this one, so that's kind of nice. So I just have a piece from the midsection that I cut off that will fill the gap. So we just need to do the folded seam. So as you see, it's just like a single stitch, and it's like an inch wide. So we're just going to fold that guy over and then just do a single stitch right across. now that I have finished that piece, I'm aligning him up right sides together with the two other bottom pieces, and we're going to stitch them down. And now it fits. So we got that middle section in here. We can kind of line him up, and then off we go. Alright, so I stitched straight across on one side, and then now I'm going to go around the pockets. So I'd actually left a little bit of edge beyond where the pocket was sewn onto the jacket when I cut the bottom edge of the denim one off. So now I'm just sewing that part onto the white blazer. Sorry I kept moving camera angles. I don't have a lot of space on my table for it, and I kept accidentally knocking it over with the sides of the blazer, but anyway, you should hopefully get the point of what I'm doing here. I just went around, there's stitching the bottom edge of the jacket, and then I'm just going to stick the needle in and pivot 90 degrees to go up the other edge of that little jog to get back to where the straight section goes straight across the blazer. So just going to stitch up that other side right here like so, and then we can just go straight across the whole back until we get to the other pocket, and then do the same thing on that side. There is the sewn on bottom edge. Looks nice. So now we just need to attach our buttons, kind of like so. So I just have a normal needle and thread, and I'm just going to sew the buttons onto the blazer. So you do want to make sure for that one button that isn't decorative that you're actually going to use to close the blazer, that you are securing that one really, really well, because if you don't wrap the thread around that one enough, then it might pop off of the jacket sometime, and that would not be fun. And you do want to make sure that when you are placing your buttons on each side that you are getting them symmetrical. Obviously, they should line up from side to side when the jacket is closed, and you want to take your time to do this. Seriously, guys, this blazer turned out freaking amazing. I absolutely love the fit with the double-breastedness and how the collar is like partially white and then partially denim. It is so freaking cute. Oh my god, it's totally my favorite blazer now, like of all time.
So if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. I will be posting another new video next week featuring this blazer along with some other looks that were worn by Quinn. And as always, if you try out one of my designs, I would love to see what you can do, so please send it to me on Instagram.
So on that note, I hope your day is as beautiful as you are.